this is your girl Nyasha with MidniteSpot, and we're here to talk fashion. I'm chilling here with my boy Rucker, Director of Marketing for Stall & Dean and Rucker's clothing line. So the first thing I have to ask you is, why is the Rucker name so hot in New York still?
Rucker goes back to 1946. The Rucker was the first tournament started, basketball tournament, known basically in existence right now. It was something that was started to bring the kids off the street in Harlem, started about Holcomb Rucker, and his legacy continues today with Chris Rucker and Dexter Gordon, who actually are the co-owners of Rucker. I think because it started grassroots and remains grassroots, we never took it corporate, and it's almost a stigmata of like Harlem. When you think of Rucker, you think Harlem immediately. We're the only line that can actually say Rucker. Some lines can say 155th, they can say 8th Avenue, but we're the only people that can say Rucker. And because of that, it's like it stands for Harlem. You know, we was in LA one time, and we was on the bus, actually in the elevator, and this guy was from Greece, and he said, he saw our shirts, you know, I was with my Stall & Dean, and he said, oh, I played at the Rucker. This guy could barely speak English, but he made it clear that, I played at the Rucker up in 155th. This guy who was in LA for All-Star game, from Greece, but, it was just like, it's part of his basketball institution, and it has the same birth date as the NBA. Both started the same year, both going into their 62nd year. So it's something a lot of people don't know about the Rucker.
So tell me how you go from, uptown street ball to midtown selling clothes.
Okay, basically basketball uniforms rolled over to basketball clothing. The jerseys, Rucker always did basketball jerseys. With the basketball crash, or we call it the jersey crash of, 2002, 2003, with the I'm 30 plus, give me a crisp pair of jeans and a button-up line, the jersey market basically bottomed out. So basically with Stall & Dean and Rucker, what we had to do was basically change our image. So we took the basketball jerseys and converted them over into what we call scrimmage tops. So these are cotton, mechanized cottons, high-end Egyptian cottons we were using, all embroidery, and this basically kept the brand hot and alive. And because we come out with something hot, it's like embroideries, it's original fabrications, hot colors, original names like the West Siders, the Uptowners, the Brooklyn Feds. These are names where people think of Dr. J, World Be Free, Pee Wee Kirkland. All of these people played at the Rucker. I mean, almost every professional player in the NBA right now, one point or the other, played at the Rucker, and they're fans of the brand. And this is why the line stays hot, because when you think of Rucker, it goes back to the park. But then when you think of legacy and history, it runs right back into the clothing, because with the clothing, we do our best to bring back all the old teams, and we continue to educate the consumer.
So you mentioned a lot of people, that are hot in the streets and wearing your clothing. Like, give me some names. Drop some names.
Well, Rucker. Okay, we'll start with Rucker. So Stall & Dean. Rucker. I'll give you one of the biggest people that wear Rucker continuously was 50 Cent. When 50 Cent was first looking for his deal, he basically, he had his problem with the Murder Inc. situation. We'll say Murder Inc. because that was the name of that time. Basically he had no one to back him up. For the most part, Murder Inc. was strong. And 50, 50 was a beast, but he was like, I just need somebody to look out for me. So when 50 came up to office, he was basically like, I need to shoot this video and this DVD. I need to get it popping. And, with Rucker and Stall & Dean, it was more or less, what do you need? It wasn't like, oh, we're afraid of this or that. Like, what do you need? And he was like, well, I need some jerseys. So if you see 50's first DVD, you'll notice he's wearing a lot of baseball and basketball jerseys. I think for the most part, we're the only people that even gave him wardrobe for that. 50 turns out to be the biggest, one of the biggest machines in history. 50 wears it, Luda wears it, T.I. wears it. These are people, DJ Drama wears a lot, Jay wears it. These are people, when you see it on them, and you think of people with class, history, you see them, these are people with a net worth probably combined $1 billion, and they love the Rucker. So it's like, when you see Rucker, Stall & Dean, again, Rucker and Stall & Dean are two separate companies, but we basically are one family. But when you see these brands, it signifies history. So when people wear it, they know they're wearing part of history. It's not a gimmick line. This is somebody that came out saying, since 67, we see something like, for instance, Stall & Dean since 1898. We were the first people to put numbers on that. You see now people say, this line from 80, this line from 75. But Stolen Dean started 1898. They were the first line to put first on the field since 1898. Other lines basically follow suit and start adding numbers as they went on. But all that started with Stolen Dean. We brought the Rucker in under us on Chris and Dex looking for a line. They came up under the Stolen Dean umbrella for a minute. And basically just the history continues and basically continues on right now.
So what can we look forward to with the line right now?
But with the Stolen Dean line and Rucker line, again, two separate lines. Stolen Dean is going to be doing a lot of vintage. I'm just going to say, if you were a fan of the 80s, late 80s and 90s, you're going to see a lot of things coming out of Stolen Dean that you basically remembered from then. You remember the low-life generation, the G-Force, the Naughty 40s. You remember that generation, the Decepticon generation. You're going to see a lot of that energy, a lot of that fashion, because that was a fashionable time in our history. Not the leather pants. We wasn't wearing no leather pants. But what we did, we had a lot of nice colors. And one thing we basically do our best to do is continue with bright colors, sharp contrast, all embroideries. Our linings, this is a high-end satin. Our sweaters will have satin linings. When you buy a $75 t-shirt from us, it's not going to be a basic t-shirt off the 28th Street with a silk screen on it. You're like, we're trying to geek the consumer. You're getting high-end quality. This is stuff that basically when you wash it, it's durable and it goes back and signifies history. Rucker's the same thing. We're going to be bringing out hot colors. We're going to have we have a camouflage-looking line where it has like the Parks Department logo mixed in with the face of Holcomb Rucker, who started the Ruckers about 61 years ago, rest his soul in peace. And we're just going to keep bringing that hot energy, and this is why I guess the Stolen Dean Rucker jackets are the hottest jackets in stores last 3 years, because we bring something new. We're original. Like this is the Pittsburgh Crawfords. People can't use these names. Basically we can use the names. Like the Montreal Royals, we do the jerseys for that. That's when Jackie Robinson came out of the Negro Leagues. He was going to the Brooklyn Dodgers. Before he went to the Dodgers, he made a pit stop in Montreal. That was the Montreal Royals. We have those jerseys, the Kansas City Monarchs, the Brown Bombers. When blacks couldn't play with the whites, we had the team, the Brown Bombers. And these are teams that we continually bring out, and we continually want to educate the consumer. So with fashion, we basically want to, it's always a classroom. So it's not in your face teaching. It's, buy this jacket and go back and look. So, wow, I'm wearing a Harvard jacket. Maybe, let me look into the history of Harvard. Then you'll look maybe somewhere and see a picture of Jay-Z when he was, I wasn't a Harvard grad, had the balls to do it, and he's wearing the Harvard jacket on stage. Or you look at the Billboard magazine, see DJ Drama wearing the Dartmouth jacket. This is something that you like, wow, like these people are wearing it. And this is because, we come out with crisp, fine colors, and there's no gimmick. We do our best not to ever gimmick anything, because gimmicks are like fast, they go in and out. But with Stolen Dean, with our young designers, and the strong team that we have together, the nucleus we have, we continue to push forward and basically keep something hot, fresh, and bright in the market.
So my last question for you, when you're stepping out on a Friday or Saturday night, what kind of jersey you got on?
When I step out on a Friday, Saturday night, I do more stepping out on the weekdays. Basically I go to MidniteSpot and actually I can get the list of what party's going on. So when people come in town and see me, they're like, "Yo, Rank, there's a party's going on." I ain't gonna lie, I go to MidniteSpot.com. I'll be like pulling up the list of the parties. I'll be like, "Oh, we go this party over at Soul tonight. Oh, this party over here tonight. Oh, Fusion's hot." And people are like, "Yo, Rank is the go-to person." So I just gave away a little industry leak right there. But I wear Stolen Dean and Rucker. If I can't get in the club with Stolen Dean and Rucker on, which I always basically get in with, but I like colors. I like colors. I like something different. I like something that makes people go, this is something different. I like to stand out, but nothing buffoonery. Something that's hot, something that makes you stand out. Like I said, our jackets, like some of the hottest jackets in the market. So like today, I was freezing today, so I threw a jacket on. And they're comfortable, and basically something like this I continue the night with. If somebody was like, "I got a party going on, I'm gonna keep the night going." And this is what it is. This is just happened to be a Red Devils football jersey that dates back to 1944. Again, when we say 1944, we actually and our catalogs go that far back. So if you go to like my MySpace, that's MySpace Rikers 357, and go to my pictures, you'll see catalogs and pictures from that go back to the 19s, you know, early 10s, 20s, you know, even 1800s. And basically, when I go out, I want people to be like, "Yo, what is he wearing?" And I want them to be able to look, you know, go Google search it and be like, "Yo, he's wearing history constantly." To me, every day I don't learn is a bad day.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I got to make a run right now, actually. Thanks again for MidniteSpot, man. I love your website.
This has been Niasha at MidniteSpot.com. You can catch out the rest of this interview and some other highlights at MidniteSpot.com in the fashion section, or go to the website StolenDean.com.